Hey guys, welcome back. Science video number 2. Remember a couple days ago I did the experiment on what makes it rain and basically what happens in a cloud to cause it to rain. So when a cloud gets oversaturated, it has too much water in it, some of that water has to come out in the form of rain or snow or some other kind of precipitation. And that was evidenced by the sponge. I filled it up, filled it up, filled it up, filled it up. And then when it was too heavy, it had too much water in it. Some of it came out, but if you did the experiment at home, you would see that your sponge was still holding some water, which is a fun way to bring ourselves to the big topic here of the water cycle. Now, if you're anything like me, when I was a kid, I thought that, okay, these big clouds up in the sky and they're like making water. They're like a water factory, right? I thought that every time it rained, it was like brand new water that had never been on the earth before. It was just made up there in the clouds, right? Because that's what it looks like when you're a kid. And that's what I thought. But then when I got older, somebody schooled me on the truth, which is nope, that water's been around on the earth for a long, long time. In fact, water is like a non renewable resource, which means we can't just make more water. What's on the earth is here. That's pretty much it. So, if that's the case, how does the water get up in the clouds to rain down here? Right? Interesting. Here's the answer: the water cycle. Let's take a look at the water cycle and start to think about this, because the water that's on the ground right now, I was outside taking a morning walk and there were puddles all over the place, even on the pavement, in the grass, everywhere. But do those puddles stay there? Do they, once they form, do they just stay there? They don't. What happens? The water cycle. The water cycle. Let's take a look at the water cycle. Okay? I know, I am not an artist, but this lovely picture I drew just a few minutes ago, and you can see that there are 4 vocabulary words. Let's start down here at the bottom with my puddle. I have labeled my puddle collection. You know what a collection is. If you like toy cars, you get more and more and more and more and more and more until you make a collection. If you like stuffed animals, you gather more and more and more and more and more and more until it becomes a collection. Water collection is like the same thing. It's a place where all of the water gathers up together. Could be a lake, could be a river, could be an ocean, could be a mud puddle. Any little grouping of water together, we're going to call collection. But just like the puddles that I saw this morning on my walk, it's not always going to be there. What happens? I'm glad you asked. The sun. The sun is really, really warm, right? And as the sun shines down on this water collection, the puddle, the lake, the river, whatever it is, it begins to heat that water up. When that water gets hot, kind of like a pot boiling on the stove when your mom is making spaghetti, as that water gets too hot, you'll start to notice these droplets rising up. That's vocabulary word number 2. I don't know if you can see my little steam looking lines over here and little droplets. It's called evaporation. And literally, it is exactly the same as when your mom heats the pot of water and it starts to boil and you see that steam rise up. I don't know about at your house, but I have a microwave over my stove and I can see those little droplets of water on the door of the microwave. That's how I know evaporation is happening. So this water that was down here in collection got heated up. It evaporated. Up, 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 up. Now, when you get up higher in the atmosphere, things start to get colder. Those little water droplets come together. Maybe they group up with some other water droplets hanging out with their little water droplet friends up here in the clouds. okay? When these clouds group up together, that's called condensation. Kind of like those droplets that hang out on the door of my microwave when I'm boiling water. They sort of get all together in that same spot, hanging out. They're condensating. So the condensation happens when those drops come together. But, like the cloud experiment that we did, when you get too many drops hanging out in the same place, the cloud starts to get too heavy. There's too much water in there. When there's too much water in there, it has to get rid of some in the form of rain or snow or some other form of precipitation, which means that that water falls back down and it starts the cycle all over again. Collection gets heated up, turns into evaporation. When evaporation, this water goes up high enough that it cools down, it starts to condensate. So condensation happens. That means it comes back together. And then when that water gets too heavy for the cloud, we get precipitation and the cycle starts all over again. Now, what's kind of cool about that is it really makes me think. The clouds that we have here now, do they just stay over Gastonia or Stanley or Charlotte? No, they travel all around. They move when the wind blows them, which means some of the water that rained on me yesterday could have been raining in a totally different state yesterday. Maybe in a different city, maybe way across the other side of the earth. I don't know. Depends on how fast the wind was blowing. Depends on a lot of different things. But the water that's outside right now is not just water that stays right here in our area. It's water that gets moved around all over the planet. Did you know that planet Earth is made up of about 70% of water? That leaves only 30% for land. So there is a ton of collection all over planet Earth, which means that that water that's evaporating and cycling through that water cycle, what we see out here, could have come from anywhere. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. Later on, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, not sure yet, depends on what kind of day I'm having, I am going to show you a little experiment that you can see the water cycle for yourself at home. And all you're going to need is some water and a Ziploc bag and a marker. All right? Love you guys and I miss you. Hope you enjoyed the water cycle video. Bye.